It's almost our favorite time of year. That's right. The fair returns March 16th, celebrating 71 years of fun.
Wow. Oh, and this year's theme is a world of fun, which means destination-influenced rides with international foods and shows.
Okay, pero what are we going to eat this year? That's what everybody wants to know,
That
right?
is the magic question. Okay, let's see. There's the Miami Cuban funnel cake sandwich, the Mexican street corn pizza, bacon pineapple burger, chili lime candy apple, and those are only some of them. There's over 130 food options.
Bueno, hay que empezar la dieta ahora. You know, there's even new shows, tú sabes, to sit down and relax a bit.
Right.
There's a dueling piano show that takes audience requests and a survey says game show where your team competes for prizes.
Okay, new food, new shows, the rides. That's a lot to do at the fair.
Bueno, pero you know that the fair is a tradition.
That's true.
Pero no worries. Just download the Youth Fair mobile app to keep track of show schedules, deals, food, rides, y de todo.
The only thing left is for us to figure out when we're going to go from March 16th through April 9th.
You know, there's only one thing left to say at this point.
Be there, the fair.
This is DJ.
And this is Ish.
And this is
Season 6 of Pero Let Me Tell You. ¿Estás listo para comenzar nuestra conversación semanal?
Je suis prête, vous êtes prêts aussi.
Oh, we're international today.
Oui, well, we are international.
That's true. We are. We are.
Listen to in
All over the world.
all over the world. We're,
Yes.
we're worldwide, baby.
We are.
So, welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You, everyone.
So we're Mr. and Mr. Worldwide?
We're Mr. and Mr. Worldwide. Welcome to Pero Let Me Tell You, everybody. Episode
240.
Shh. We have to say that lowly because Tristan will find out it's a 10th episode, you know, and he'll...
I feel like he's kind of lost track.
I know.
Yes.
We'll tell him next week.
Yes, we will. Yes.
We'll lie to him.
Yes.
Lie to children.
It's what we do.
It's what you do. You lie to children.
It's
Welcome,
okay.
everybody. Welcome. How was everybody's week?
I think everybody's doing well. It's Friday. We're getting closer to spring break now that we're in March.
Jolly, that's Christmas again.
Stop it.
Remember, I would always tell you, like, in Christmas, like, yeah, it's already St. Patrick's Day. It's already St. Patrick's
almost
Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. St. Patrick's Day.
Estamos ya casi.
St. Patrick's Day, I have to tell you, St. Patrick's Day is one of those holidays that growing up, especially growing up #Hispanic and in Miami, it's not a thing. And I remember when I lived in the Midwest that everybody
St.
would
Patrick's
start like days or weeks before. So what are we doing for St. Patrick's Day? I'm like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, it's a drinking holiday.
No, but the thing is that up north on St. Patrick's Day, like, all these restaurants, like, I remember they would extend to the parking lot.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like, they would put, and, you know, mind you, this was Michigan in March, so it was still cold. So they would have all those heat lamps and all that stuff. But it was like a big
it's a thing, yeah.
And I'm like, we're Cuban. We don't do St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, no.
Like, maybe in school, we would,
the little shamrock.
A little shamrock.
And a rainbow with the pot of gold and a leprechaun.
That's
it.
about
Wear
it.
a green shirt, you know.
Right, that's about it.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, no, when I was in New York, I actually just loved St. Patrick's Day because Rick would make corned beef and soda bread and all that from scratch. So it was great.
I remember when a very good friend of mine that I had when I worked at the law firm in Brickell in downtown, he would be like, oh, you know, what do you eat on St. Patrick's Day? Oh, he's a cabbage and and I'm like, I don't know. Pasta? Like, frijole?
Pizza?
Like,
I don't know.
Frijole?
Like,
I don't know. Carne asada? Not.
No,
It's
not corned beef and hash.
You know, it is something that is Irish.
Right.
There's no Irish people in South Florida. Who do we know in South Florida that's Irish?
John Martin.
John Martin closed.
It reopened.
Okay, well, John Martin, one restaurant.
I'm saying, but that's it.
One in the metropolis of South Florida.
That's it, as far as I know. Duffy's?
Really? Bennigan's? I would have, when I would go to Bennigan's, I would have, you know, the old Irish timer, that hamburger that had the knife in it, you know?
Oh, those are good.
Yeah. That's about it.
Now I want that burger.
Which, by the way, people, I know Bennigan's gone, but not forgotten. If you want a Montecristo sandwich, yes, I know. I know many of you are probably thinking, the Montecristo sandwich, the sandwich that almost killed me. Yes, it probably did almost kill you because it has about 45,000 grams of fat.
Only?
If you want one that's just as good, go to Cheddar's. There is a Cheddar's here in Miami. Mm-hmm. Well, I know of one. I don't know if there's more than others. And it's a from scratch restaurant. But Cheddar's is a chain. They have them all over the place. Yeah. And their Montecristo sandwich is Bennigan-esque. That's all I'm saying. The Montecristo sandwich is really a beast to be tamed.
Yeah, it really is.
Can you eat a whole one?
Not now. In my day, I could.
In your day?
Yeah.
In your day?
In my prime eating days.
Because I don't know if I think you're still in your prime. I mean, I've seen you.
This is true, but I feel like now I would have to think about it. Is what I mean.
Right. I feel like maybe I could eat a Montecristo sandwich, and I'm not a light eater, and I'm not a petite person. Maybe if I haven't eaten anything else,
right,
and they just give me the sandwich.
But I feel like my body would almost just be like, "Are you sure?" Whereas, when I was 19. I wouldn't have asked.
Right, but it's a commitment because it's like, okay, well, I'm purposely clogging my arteries.
Yeah, and it's fun.
But fine. It has powdered sugar and, jelly on top. So
again, when you're 19, that's a problem for your 50s.
Yeah. So, let's move on from the Montecristo sandwich.
All right. So I want to start today's episode actually with something a little different. So listeners and you, Darian, I'm sure have heard of like all this AI and this, these programs, these chat GPTs that are creating all these like scenarios or what have you. So I found one online and I asked it to create a script for an episode of the Pero Let Me Tell You podcast.
Oh, God.
So I want us to read what the script would have been according to this thing. Because what it does is it trolls and it gets information about what we're about.
Did you provide them then its information?
No, I didn't. I just put in the question. I literally said,
so this is like an AI challenge.
It is an AI. Yeah. So I literally said, what would be the script for an episode of the podcast Pero Let Me Tell You? And this is what it gave us. So do you want to be host 1 or host 2? So we can read it together.
So our listeners know, and I know. So the whole thing, it's an AI challenge. You give them the podcast name, and it's supposed
you give them a scenario.
What was the scenario?
The scenario is give me a script for the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I could have said, like, what would it sound like, or what would a movie be like about a dog that falls in love with a cat?
Okay.
And then it would.
So then the AI is supposed to do its own research, I guess.
Right.
And internet trolling, as you said, to figure out, in this case, what Pero Let Me Tell You is about and try to come up with some type of comparable script.
Correct.
Okay. I got it.
All right. So do you want to be host 1 or host 2?
I'll be host 1.
Okay. So then you're first.
Hola, and welcome to another episode of Pero Let Me Tell You. I'm your host, DJ, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend,
Ish. Hola. How's it going, DJ?
Pretty good. Today we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts, the Cuban American experience.
We're both Cuban American, and we know that our experience is unique compared to other Latinos in the United States.
Definitely. So let's start with our upbringing. How was it growing up Cuban American in Miami? Segment 1, growing up Cuban American in Miami.
So this would be our first segment. Well, Miami is known as the capital of Latin America, and that's certainly true for Cuban Americans. I grew up in a neighborhood where almost everyone was Cuban.
Yeah, same here. And our parents were really insistent on us speaking Spanish at home, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was like a cardinal sin if we spoke English at home.
And what about the food? I know for me, there's always arroz con frijoles and platanitos on the table. Okay, except platanitos. That's pretty legit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. And don't forget the cafecito. I mean, cafecito, platanito.
Segment 2, the Cuban. So that's the end of segment 1. Segment 2, the Cuban American identity starts with host 2.
Oh, okay. So Let's talk about our Cuban American identity. I know for me, I feel very proud of being Cuban, but I also feel very American.
Oh. Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act. We're not quite Cuban, but we're not quite American either.
Exactly. And I know that for some of us, there's a bit of tension between the two identities.
Definitely. I know that when I travel to Cuba, I feel like an outsider because I don't quite fit in. You know, my many travels of Cuba.
All of those times you've gone back and forth. And what about when you're in the United States? Do you ever feel like you're not quite American enough?
Oh, all the time. Sometimes I feel like I have to prove my Americanness to people. Okay, and this goes on and on and on. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. No. It's a little reductive.
Right.
To quote Madonna, it's a little reductive.
Yes.
I actually thought it was going to be
worse.
Awful. I mean, this is not a script I would use, but
it's just not how humans talk.
Right. And they said platanitos.
And cafecito.
And cafecito. I thought that was on point. I wonder how I got this information. How did I get this information?
So what these programs do is it just goes out there and it trolls the internet. So remember that for all of our podcast episodes, you know, we put in all those little descriptions. So anytime that we put in there, like, you know, oh my God, guys, we love our platanitos, you know, in the description of the episodes, this is now verbal content that is out there and exists. So I'm assuming that they troll, they take it, they compile, and they come up with that. But yeah, it's a little scary how, again, it's very stilted because it's not how humans speak, but it's accurate in its own way.
I wouldn't say it's accurate, but it's not
wrong.
It's not completely off either.
Right.
Because it sort of was trying to be nuanced to being Cuban and Cuban American. Whereas, you know, the moment it picked up that we were Latin, it could have, you know the route that could have taken.
Right. It could have been all Latinx.
No. Or, you know, salsa fiesta caliente.
Right.
You know.
That's true.
Right, that's what I was thinking, right?
That's another shirt we need to make. Salsa fiesta caliente.
All the things that we are. Caliente.
You know, whenever you think of us, you think of caliente.
Spicy Cuban. Oh, whatever. Anyway, so it wasn't that bad.
No, but I was like, you know what? Let's try this because I have heard it on other podcasts. There's actually a podcast out there that is creating the content almost entirely based off of these things because it's trying to the point of the podcast is that, right, is trying to be like predictive and what it's gonna AI generate that people like want to listen to and what they anticipate and all that. So it's a little scary that we're going down this route. The other day I heard an AI created version of Lady Gaga's Paparazzi but with Britney Spears' voice.
Okay. How did that sound?
I mean, it sounded good, but it was just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it didn't quite sound exactly like Britney, but it sounded enough like Britney that you would be like, oh, did she cover this? Like, while spinning in her living room?
She may have covered it. Who knows? While she spun in her living room, as you said.
Well, yeah, when she's in a roller coaster. But yeah, AI terrifies me, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so we can
have you heard about the deep fakes?
Oh, deepfakes have been going on for a while, but I think they're even better now.
Yeah, deepfakes are really scary.
They terrify
because I feel that deepfakes can really have an effect on politics.
Or your life. Forget politics.
Yes, but politics.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I'm just
because
saying, like,
I feel that the
technology
and for our listeners who don't know, deepfakes can either be pictures or even video.
Yeah.
It's more incriminating when it's video.
Yeah, because a picture people I feel are
like
dismissive.
They could get, for example, now the president, Joe Biden, they could manipulate a video of him, let's say, having a press conference or giving a speech to say something completely different, like,
I hate Mexicans,
I support Vladimir Putin, whatever.
Right.
And they can manipulate it in a way that you will be seeing a video of Joe Biden, or the president, whomever, saying something like that.
Yeah.
The reason I say that it scares me for politics is because I feel that if those resources are going to be used, it'll probably be for something big. It's not going to be for, for your traffic citation in, in traffic court. But that's something that can have a really, really scary impact. Now, right now, obviously, there are professionals and there are trained eyes that can tell a deep fake apart from one that's not. But the common person, a lot of the common people can't.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, you can't.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, and that's a technology that's only going to get better.
Yeah, every time I see that technology, I always think of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Where he says, like, you were so worried about thinking if you could, you never stopped to think if you should.
I always think of Star Wars, the greatest deep fake of all. I forgot his name. El viejo that died in the
Emperor.
Yeah, what's his name? I should know this. It's
Palpatine?
Star Wars. Not Palpatine. The one that was like always next to Darth Vader. He died in like I think after the second movie, and then he came out in all the new movies, like episode 1, 2, and 3.
Well, that was Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine.
It was not Palpatine.
Que viejo. Oh, Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
He died like after Return of the Jedi, but then he came out in the new movies. He's like the ultimate deepfake.
But not Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher came out after. I'm saying
right, but Carrie Fisher, at least they had a lot of footage of, and she was in one of the more recent movies, right?
True.
But this man died in like the 80s.
Yeah, they really had to scour the archives.
And they still did a deep fake of him, if you will, with technology and CGI was already in existence in the 90s, especially the late 90s, but even now it's expanded a lot more. So
yeah,
anyway,
it terrifies me.
Moving on from our AI experience
as we move away from the Matrix.
So I wanted to talk about something I saw on TV this week, which it just made me feel like it infuriated me in so many levels, but it's a reality of today. The whole thing that's going on with the TikTok bans.
What? So okay. I kind of heard about it, but
so TikTok, for those listeners out there who don't know, so TikTok is owned by a Chinese media conglomerate, right? Yes. Obviously, like anything else, it has its American subsidiary, but it is a Chinese media conglomerate that owns TikTok, and this is not a secret. As such, a lot of different institutions in the United States, whether it's government institutions, both state and federal, as well as colleges and universities, have started to ban TikTok. So what that means is that you could have TikTok on your phone, but for example, if you work in a federal building and you're using the Wi-Fi of the federal building, it's not going to let you use TikTok.
Okay.
If you're in a college campus that bans TikTok, you can't use the college campuses
in your dorms.
You can't use any Wi-Fi or even the LTE coverage that maybe is an antenna that's in the campus. You can't use TikTok. So essentially it's banned in those areas. So then of course there's a conversation of like, is the government going to put a ban on TikTok? And of course people are screaming bloody murder.
Right.
So they're reporting about this earlier today. And what I found so kind of infuriating was that there were content creators there coming out on TikTok. Obviously, they're all very young, who are saying like, I can't have a normal 9-to-5 job. This is my job, and you're taking this away from me. And I'm like,
oh, see, I was on your side until they opened their mouth.
And I'm like, really? You can't have a regular 9-to-5 job? You don't
want to.
Well, you don't want to,
but you can. Yeah,
you can't have a regular 9-to-5 job. And what I think is so interesting is
that's an entitlement.
And obviously we can't. We would be hypocrites if we said otherwise. We do use social media as a platform for our podcast and our chicken business, and it is a tool that we use, and we use it a lot. Aside from it being personal, right? But the fact that I just think it's interesting that there's so many, especially young people, that their career goal is to be a content creator.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
My biggest. So I understand being a content creator when you're creating content because you have a brand, because you do X.
Okay.
Right? Like if you're a comedian, you have a content creator.
Got it. You're a singer.
You have a content creator. If you're a singer, if you're an artist,
right? You have a restaurant. Right.
You own content, right? You are using social media to create content, to create a buzz about your product.
Right.
But what I've always had I've always struggled to understand, and this was even before TikTok. This was even on Instagram. The people whose content is themselves.
Like this was MySpace. Just MySpace, you didn't monetize it.
That's something that I have never quite understood. I'm not going to follow you because you're attractive or you're sexy or you're cute. It's like. Right.
And why does
I don't want to see that many pictures of you.
And even if I do, what about that makes you an expert on a topic to recommend something to me?
Right. Because now all these people get endorsements.
Right. Like, you're pretty, but that doesn't mean you know anything about electrolytes.
Right. And here you are telling me to buy something with electrolytes. Right. Like, that's something that I've always been like, this is not working on me, because I could see right there. Don't you know, I always you and I have had this conversation that I feel that a lot of marketing campaigns and media campaigns don't work on me because, like, I catch it. Yeah. I mean, there's some that do, obviously, but I'm like, I know what you're doing here. Right.
Some work on you despite the fact that you know what they're doing.
Right. Well,
because you're like, I know what you're doing, but it's a fun campaign. Right.
But that's something that I've always thought is kind of, but then again, I'm not a Gen Z person. Maybe if I was a Gen Z person, I would think that way, that it's like, unless you have a real, it's sort of what we used to say 20 years ago about like Paris Hilton.
Right.
She's famous for the sake of being famous. To me, if you don't have a talent or a product or something that you are using or creating content to do, what are you creating content about? Like, I don't find people generally that interesting that
most people aren't,
that I'm going to follow you because you're a lifestyle brand. Like, you're a lifestyle brand. Right.
And again, that's such a broad term because, you can be a lifestyle brand if you're a person who does, how to make over used furniture into something new, right? Okay, yeah, that's technically a lifestyle brand, but that's something that's a thing. That's a talent. That's a skill that you can wrap your head around. But like I said, if you're just somebody who's just like, hi, I'm pretty, and I'm gonna record my days of me shopping and whatever. Oh my God, you posted something the other day. This guy, I can't remember his name right now, that you posted yesterday. I think it was yesterday. That he's like, I'm rich, you're poor.
Oh my God,
his whole
love
thing.
him.
Okay, I did not know him until you posted yesterday.
Did you go to his page?
I was.
Did you fall down that? You're a popo.
Oh my God.
Oh, look at you! Look at you! Buy. Okay, so
take the day off.
Okay, so.
So while you look it up, the reason I bring it up is because he would show like this one lady who her whole thing was like, I'm going to show you a day in the life of a stay-at-home girlfriend. And it's like, I wake up, I do my yoga, I go and I get my coffee, I make my coffee, I journal, I sit outside, I then go to the gym or whatever. I'm like, you're not that interesting. And yet I guarantee you that person, whoever that girl's video is, she's cute. So I'm sure she has thousands upon thousands upon thousands of followers. Okay. Like, I'm sure of it.
So the Instagram page that I'm talking about, so guys, listeners, look them up, this guy on Instagram. It's called Shabazz Says. Shabaz says. Yeah. Shabazz Says.
He was on The Circle.
And he, a lot of most of the content that he puts, But this is what I'm saying. He's being funny.
Right.
The what he is creating is comedy.
Correct.
Right. So he has something that he's giving. Right. So he has a series of episodes called in today's episode of I'm Rich and You're Poor. All these episodes, he's like in his pajamas, like lying in bed,
like in a onesie,
and he's like, in today's episode of I'm Rich, You're Poor, and then he'll usually have a video in the background. He's like, look at me. I spend $12,000 of Voss water every day, every week or every month. Why can I buy Voss water? Because I'm rich. Why can't you? Because you're poor. Poor people don't buy Voss water.
They don't have their own refrigerator for Voss water.
Their own refrigerator for Voss water. Poor people have to drink water from the tap. Why? Because you're a povo. I know what it is. Why? Because you're a povo. Like, I love it. You know what I love about him? That I feel that it's so like tongue in cheek. Like, he's sort of because the videos that he's putting are videos from Instagram.
These are actual people again who are posting, and I guarantee you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people following them.
So he's sort of taking a piss at them to be very British.
British, yeah,
right. Yeah. He's taking a piss of them. He's sort of laughing at their expense, but kind of in a tongue-in-cheek way, like, oh, look at how rich they are, but they're really, really blinking,
He's
being like,
ridículo.
they're full of shit, right? Oh, but check out this Instagram page.
Fell down that rabbit hole.
Shabazz says, I love him. Like, he makes me laugh so much.
It's the reason I woke up late today.
I love how, like, flat he is. In today's episode of I'm rich and you're poor.
No, but his reaction videos is when he gets very animated.
Oh, yes. He's like, no.
He's like, no, stop. He's like, take the day off.
Yeah. He's great. He's great. But back to the TikTok thing. So, you know, there's this whole thing now that people are afraid that TikTok is going to be
outright banned.
Yeah. I don't think, I mean, I that's going to be a very far reach for the government to do a national ban on TikTok. That's not something we've ever seen. Can they ban TikTok in federal buildings or in federal like different institutions? Absolutely. Can they ban TikTok in even high schools? Yeah, they can.
Well, it's a government building.
Yeah, they can. So I'm not on TikTok, so I know we are.
We are, yeah.
But I'm not on TikTok. I never cared to fall under the TikTok rabbit hole.
I really don't. Like, the only TikTok videos I've watched are the ones of the people that we follow. But again, the people we follow are like Dos Croquetas. You know, like the people we follow on Instagram.
But you know, that depends. But
that's generational.
That's all like the thing. I've never, again, this is not, I'm not being critical of people that do. I have never on my social media been one who follows a lot of celebrities. Mm-hmm. I follow 5 celebrities. You know who they are.
Jodie Sweetin.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God. I want to say Mel C.
I follow Jodie Sweetin, Candace Cameron, Melanie C., The Weeknd, and Mariah Carey. And Demi Lovato. That's it. I don't follow anybody else. And some of them, sometimes I unfollow. Like, sometimes when The Weeknd is not posting shit, I unfollow him. When Demi Lovato was in rehab, I unfollowed her. I'm like, she's not posting anything.
I mean, she'll release a documentary soon enough. So you'll be fine.
And it's like really weird, like really random that I follow Melanie C. Like, it's like,
not really. No. To know you is to know that you would follow Mel C.
Not the other ones.
Not the other ones.
But it's like really random that I follow her, and it's really random that I follow Candace Cameron. Like,
yes and no, because of your Full House love.
Right, but I don't follow any of the other ones from Full House. Just her and Jodie Sweetin. I don't follow any of the adults. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, what are you going to follow John Stamos for hair tips?
well,
you don't need them. You already have the hair tips.
So, well, and then of course
Mariah's Mariah. Yes, this is true.
So
it's true. You should. God knows you should follow Madonna.
No, I don't.
No. So now that we're talking about things that are banned, and and censorship,
asbestos.
Are we talking about asbestos?
Well, asbestos is banned.
I would hope so. It's deadly. I actually wanted to bring up something that I saw on a couple of sites about 2 different types of books. So I don't know if you heard recently, there were some revisions being made to the books
of
James Bond books, as well as Roald Dahl.
Mm-hmm. Which one?
Roald Dahl. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but the writer of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and James and the Giant Peach, there were also some edits being made to his works. And I wanted to bring it up for several reasons. Number one, because I know how we feel in general about censorship. But these changes, and I don't know how familiar you are with them if you even saw it, some of these changes just seemed to be kind of arbitrary. Like, to the point where the Roald Dahl ones have even gone back and said, well, we're going to release these edited versions, but we're also going to release an unedited version, just to kind of keep things going. But for instance, like some of the altered language, words like fat, ugly, and crazy were edited out, and language related to gender, weight, appearance, and more was altered. I find it very odd that, not odd, it's a little, to me, I'm taking the stance that it's a little too much. Mm-hmm. Because now we're not just talking about going back and changing, an offensive word, right? Or a slur. We're talking about basically going in and saying, well, no, you didn't describe it right.
So now you're changing
the meaning of the author's intent. Now, in the case of Roald Dahl, these were approvals that were, to changes that were approved by the Roald Dahl Story Company. But for instance, In Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Augustus Gloop, instead of being called enormously fat, was just called enormous. Then in The Witches, the women characters are now top scientists and business owners rather than a cashier in a supermarket.
I could understand getting rid of the word fat, but then the other one, you're changing the character.
Right. And tweaks related to gender abounded. Mothers and fathers were switched to family. Ladies and gentlemen became folks.
So
boys and girls became children.
I know of this because of the James Bond books.
So that was the other one that I read about too.
I did read about it too.
Yeah.
So they're going back and changing and removing all language that is
and I have that article here. I'm going to find
and all language that is racial and all language that is demeaning to women. Right. So that's going to be a while.
Yeah. So basically it's a pamphlet.
Yeah. So and it's funny because when I heard about the James Bond one, I immediately thought, oh, the book they're going to have to change completely is Live and Let Die. Because that's the book. That's the movie Jane Seymour's in. Okay. But that movie has to do with voodoo.
Yes.
So there's a lot of ties to voodooism and the African diaspora.
Yeah, you just said some changes can be found in examples like Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Removing Bond's description of accented dialogue as quote unquote straight Harlem Deep South with a lot of New York thrown in, which I don't necessarily think is offensive. It's descriptive.
So here's how I feel about all of that.
Wait, hold on. This is one of my favorite ones too. Additionally, the reworking of a nightclub scene that described the audience of a strip show with the passage, Bond could hear the audience panting and grunting like pigs at the trough, was changed to, Bond could feel the electric tension in the room. That second sentence is not the first sentence.
So here's how I feel about all of this. It's a very slippery slope when you start changing things, right? Because as I always say, where do you start? And where does it end? Mm-hmm. Because I think that we could all agree that there's certain language, especially racial language, especially language having to do with the N-word, that in most of the time, if not all the time, that word was included, it didn't have to be included. It was just how they spoke at that time. Right. So I could understand how that is something that is unnecessary. And if you change that word, you are not necessarily changing the story. But the problem is, yes, you start with that word, which I think most people can agree, has no place in language or in literature, and can be very uncomfortable for people to read. But where does it end?
Well, but by leaving it there, you're also providing a snapshot of how the world was.
Right. So I think what I've always thought is that all these books or movies that have controversial language or references, put a disclaimer. Put a disclaimer.
This was written at a time.
This was written at a time that like in the James Bond movies, the Ian Fleming Productions and the Broccoli Family, which or State. This is not representative of Ian Fleming Productions and the Broccoli Estate. Those are the people who wrote all these books. These aren't our views. However, this was how it was originally written. Right. I think that you should put a disclaimer, because the moment that you start changing all these works, where do you start and where do you end? Now,
I think it's hilarious that they're called sensitivity readers.
Now, there are certain things, though, that are difficult. Because, for example, I think about a book like To Kill a Mockingbird. Right. Which, hence, my son's name is from that book. That is how much the impact that book had on me. Right? I could understand that while To Kill a Mockingbird is a book that I think all Americans should read, and it's an amazing book, and Atticus Finch is one of the greatest characters in American literature, I could understand that if you are the lone black kid in the class, or one of the few black kids in the class, reading a book that has the N-word so many times can be very, very shocking, traumatizing, and difficult. I understand that. And I think it would be it's difficult for one to say, well, but the book, the message of the book is, is great. And that's what the book is trying to say. Yes, that is true. But how do you read that book? Like, if you read it today in school, obviously, if you're reading out loud in class, you're not going to say that word, right? But the kids are going to read it. So I would understand if for certain books, right, especially if they're going to be taught in classes, maybe instead of using the N-word, they would reprint it and use expletive, put in parentheses, expletive.
Mm-hmm.
Something where the word is not there. We know what the word is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not there, but we don't need to read it and we don't need to see it or hear it. We know what it is. Especially in the context of the classroom. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is that is what a lot of people with books like To Kill a Mockingbird are focusing their energy. Oh, because it has the word. It has the word. And I understand that the word can be very hard to tackle that debate in a classroom setting and how it can make a student who's black feel. But still, it's a story that needs to be read.
Oh, the argument could also be made that the classroom is exactly where that conversation should take place, to provide an understanding of when it was written and about, the author's intent and things like that.
Right. But it is difficult. I'm
not saying it's not, but I'm just difficult.
So I would understand something like that, especially for the classroom setting. But other than that, just put a
disclaimer
on it. Put a disclaimer on it, call it a day. That's what they did with esta película, Gone with the Wind.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, remember, they tried to cancel Gone with the Wind.
Right.
They took it off the HBO's rotation or whatever, wherever it was. Yeah. But then they brought it back with a disclaimer. Put it as it is. This is, I mean, I don't know factually how accurate Gone with the Wind is. I've only seen that movie once or twice. But and it does have a disclaimer, so it does exist. But this is a book that was written in about the American South during the Civil War and slavery, and this is,
and here you go.
Yes, and this was this depiction of that. But yeah, it's where do you start and where do you end? That ending point is the very hard thing, because you can make the argument of like, okay, so this is a far-fetched, but again, when you don't, now the word that now is used is queer, right?
But that was offensive, like literally 10 years ago.
Yeah, right. But now it's queer. So are you gonna make an argument that we should not use a word gay and homosexual in literature because that is an antiquated term? Right. I mean, I know it sounds a little far-fetched.
No, but I get what you're saying.
But it's like the moment you start down this path, where does it end? Because there's always going to be people that are going to be offended. Well, I don't like the word gay. I don't like the word homosexual. I'm queer. Right. Okay, well, that's great. But so are we now? It
doesn't make this word wrong. Right?
Are we now going to not, you could even say it about Latinx. Like, we don't care for that word, but a lot of people do. Right? So are you going to say that being, Hispanic, which is such a loaded term nowadays, are you going to say that the word Hispanic should be removed from books or movies? Again, those are far-fetches.
But it's the same, it's the same road.
Yes. It's a very, again, where does this end when you start changing things? Right. Because then how much are you going to change? Is it a word? Is it a sentence? So now when you're
Is it even the same work anymore?
Right. Once you start changing sentences, who's writing this?
Right.
Right. So there's going to be now a co-author? Is there going to be a ghostwriter?
Some royalties paid here or there?
Is there going to be a ghostwriter?
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the
they actually talked about that on The View this week.
Oh, they did.
Whoopi Goldberg was not having it.
If anybody would not have it, I could imagine.
And who do you think was?
Well, I mean, when she wrote a book, I'm sure Sunny had many.
Yeah, Sunny
encountered many things of this nature.
Sunny was like, change it all.
No puedo con ella, no puedo.
No puedo con Sunny Hostin.
No puedo. But you know what? That's we're just talking about that. But really quick, I just want to say thank you to Sobe Wine and Food Festival.
Yes, how did we not start with Sobe?
Well, because we started with the AI.
Yeah, well, right. Artificial intelligence trumps Sobe.
Well, because we haven't talked about our experience yet, so it couldn't troll the internet, so it couldn't create a script for us with Sobe.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, so just thank you, Sobe Wine and Food Festival, for having us, not just at the Make It Miami event, which was a blast. I assume it was a blast. I only saw the fryer.
Yes.
That thank God it finally worked.
I would like to think to our listeners. So we were invited last week to the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, and I mean, if you're in Miami, you know what that is. But the South Beach Food and Wine Festival, it's a Food Network. It's in affiliation with Food Network. Yes. It's one of the biggest food and wine festivals in the country, and it's super prestigious.
Yes,
and we were
invited.
Fortunate enough to be invited to showcase our wings here. So we had known about this for a few months already, and we were like, both of us were like, oh my God, that day, everything has to be perfect. I was so like bent over in terms of my, like the perfection that one of our sauces, like I totally dumped it out and did it again. Because I was like, it has to be silky smooth. Yes. Like it has to be.
We were both being Joan Crawford that
perfect. Day. It had to be perfect. Because this is Sobe. This is
it. This is it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like Ishmael and I were doing like checklists, like, do we have this? Do we have that? Do we have that? We have to make sure we're going to be here. We have to get there early, all this stuff. So one of the things that was in like the back of my mind, because when you go to these festivals, you don't take your own equipment. They give you the equipment. So in our case, we needed a fryer. So one of the things in the back of my mind, I'm like, what happens if the fryer doesn't work?
Because we have no plan B.
There's no plan B. We can't
grill
fryers,
our wings,
right? We can't. I was like, okay, well, we could give little cups of our sauces. They could be little palate cleansers.
Yes, that's what we came to do.
Anyway, so little palate cleansers. So like I was like, that's something I had in my back of my mind, but I'm like, no, this is Sobe. This is going to be under control.
What could happen?
So we got there. We were like super excited. We got there about 2 hours before the event was starting. So all the other like fellow vendors were.
Oh, we got there 2 hours before the event started, but on the way there on Collins, literally like 2 blocks away, the cops had stopped traffic. So we had to desviar, take everything off the car.
Yes.
Me and our friend Daisy had to like push everything
and
to the
you were
hotel.
so sure that we had to be there at 8, but really we had to be there at 7. I'm glad that you messed that up and not me, because then I would have gotten the continued reputation that I'm bad on time.
I was on antibiotics.
Anyway, so we get there, we're setting up, everybody's setting up, and the fryer doesn't start. The fryer did not start.
Yeah.
And I tried, and the fryer did not start. They called the technician.
Yes, the coordinators.
So then the coordinators of the festival
fabulous.
Came in. They were super supportive. They called the guy. I tried to literally troubleshoot with him on the phone, and the fryer was still not working. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, you have a home there or home said somewhere." He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn around," and I'm like, this starts in an hour. Like, you're going to turn around from God knows where to come to Miami Beach. Maybe you'll make it by tomorrow.
Right.
So the panic started to come in, and I think I did a very good job.
You did.
I removed myself from the situation. I was like, I need to walk away, and I need to go sit far away from here because this is not going to end well. But thankfully,
our boys
Raul from Are You Hungry Grill saw us in distress, and he came over and he's like, what's going on here? And he figured it out.
Yeah.
And
he's like, I have one of these at home. It's,
there was something off with it though, because I had used that fryer before and I had never had a problem lighting it. And he said, he's like, oh, there's something here, whatever. But somehow he made it work. So Raul from Are You Hungry Grill, thank you for saving us.
You really did,
literally saved us, because otherwise I would have walked in straight into the ocean.
Palate cleanser or no?
And it was right there.
Yeah, it was not a long walk.
I did not have to go very far. It was literally like 200 feet away.
Yes, he would have Sylvia Plath it. Just put some rocks in his pockets and just gone in.
That's not what Sylvia Plath did. Sylvia Plath put her head in
the oven. Wait, who was the one that walked into?
I don't know. Nicole Kidman in The Hours.
Virginia Woolf. It was Nicole Kidman playing Virginia Woolf. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Sylvia Plath put her head in the gas oven.
That's right.
Oven. Is that a fast way to go?
I mean, you breathe in the gas. So I don't.
Well, I was gonna say, couldn't she do that with exhaust? Well, whatever. That's not.
But that seems like it requires more work, especially back in the 50s.
I remember actually in high school them talking to us about that and how
Sylvia Plath?
About Sylvia Plath putting her head in the oven and killing her,
Right.
Committing suicide. Okay, I didn't grow up with a gas oven, so I was thinking like, ella tenía el horno bien like alto, and she put in her head like I remember
how did she not burn her head?
I remember thinking like doing the mechanics in my head like that's what she did because I didn't.
Yeah, because we didn't have gas ovens here.
No,
Yeah, it's electric.
It's electric.
Boogie woogie woogie.
It's Miami, so I don't think we should end on that note.
No. I don't think we should end on that note. But again, South Beach Wine and Food Festival, it was fantastic. We had a great time, not just at the Make It Miami, but also at all the other events that, we got invited to by Florida Dairy, by Chef Chris, by Lee Schrager, the welcome party the night before
we need to diet now.
I don't think, we should have been dieting as we were eating the other things.
I feel that the Sobe Food and Wine Festival, especially since we're very fortunate that we get invited to multiple events each year, I feel the way we have to approach this is a way we approach the fair.
Okay, I'm listening.
The fair is coming. Métete a dieta.
That's true. You have to do the mental.
Yes. Cleanse yourself.
Yes.
Do whatever you have to do. Fast. Do one of those water.
The water diets. The lemon.
Whatever works. Because it's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite part of the whole the parties was though, right?
What?
On Thursday when we saw Jane Krakowski.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I was so fanboying.
Well,
she housed that slider.
My favorite part was so we went to an event that was sponsored by the Florida Dairy Farmers.
Oh yeah.
And when we walk in, it was a huge table of all you could eat cheese.
Every cheese you could imagine.
Right. And there was several blue cheeses and there were milkshakes. I was like,
and they brought all the boys to the yard.
I was like, they're going to have to roll me out of here because they had milkshakes and it was all the blue cheese I could eat.
And you did.
And I did. So listeners, I love blue cheese. If you know me personally, you know this.
Yep.
I make a very bold statement about blue cheese.
Okay.
There is nobody in the world that loves blue cheese more than I do. Maybe as much.
But not more.
Okay. I say that very confidently.
I think that's fair. That's a fair statement.
You've seen it. You've seen it throughout the decades.
Listen, you've started the Cheesecake Factory trend.
Yep. Of asking for blue cheese.
I do it to this day.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen other people doing it. I'm like, I started that.
You don't know where that came from, but I'm the originator. Right here, babe.
Okay, but the blue cheese from the Cheesecake Factory is otherworldly.
Especially with the pumpernickel bread.
It will take you to someplace else.
It will. It takes you beyond the factory.
I'm not gonna lie. Well, why would I? When I go to the Cheesecake Factory and everybody's dipped their bread,
right.
And yes, I got wet bong, and the entrees come, or it's about to come, I ask for more blue cheese dressing. I just eat it by the spoonful. I have it like a soup.
I've seen it happen, ladies and gentlemen.
I have that shit like a soup.
I have seen it happen. It is not an exageración.
Listen, you're at the Cheesecake Factory. Either go big or go home.
It's true.
Right.
I mean, the portions are already the size of your head.
I'm not going to go to the Cheesecake Factory and be like, oh, can you just lightly sprinkle some dressing on whatever it is that I'm having?
I'll have a watercress salad.
Bring me a bowl of the dressing. It's either go big or go home.
And then just dump it in there.
I'm going to have a cheesecake that's 1,200 calories.
Yeah.
I'm going to have an entree that's probably 2,500 calories.
The appetizers are ridiculous. The appetizers
are probably another 2,000.
Yeah.
Have you seen the nutrition facts on the salads of the Cheesecake Factory?
I don't look at any of that.
The barbecue chicken salad from the Cheesecake Factory, I think, has 1,850 calories.
I don't look. I don't need to.
Right, but it's a salad, right? And we all know that salads can be very unhealthy.
Not all salads are created equal.
Right, they can be very unhealthy, very, a lot of cheese, maybe a greasy protein. But that's 1,800 over 1,800. That's almost your caloric intake for an entire day. What it should be.
In a salad.
In one salad.
Right.
You haven't touched the bread yet.
Te hagas el coquito about the cheesecake because you're not having it if you're guiding yourself.
I've said this before. I don't know. Hate me all. Come at me if you will. I love the Cheesecake Factory. The Cheesecake Factory gives me...
It's a happy place.
It's a happy face. It gives me warm feelings. They should be a sponsor.
They should.
Because I love the Cheesecake Factory. And just before all you foodies out there come at me, I know that the Cheesecake Factory is not fine dining.
Right.
I know that it's fast casual, that it's mall, suburban mall fare. Right. I know all those things. So please keep your comments to yourself. Thank you.
And I can't think of a better way to transition to our last opinion.
Right, because you know how that starts, right? Yeah. Oh, you know that like the bang bang chicken and shrimp there is not authentic Thai food. I'm like, really?
Right.
Do you think that I think that they have Thai chefs in the back just for the people that order the bang bang chicken and shrimp? Really?
Right.
Do you think that I think that, Cheesecake Factory has its own tamarindo farm to put the tamarindo sauce in their firecracker, in their avocado egg rolls? Like, do you think that I think that?
Right.
Right? Oh, this bothers me so much.
Yeah, just because you like something doesn't mean you're blind to the realities.
Right, as we've said here before.
Right.
It's like, do you really think that when I go to the Olive Garden, you think that I'm having authentic...
This is so Tuscan.
So authentic Tuscan Italian cuisine. Do you really think that? Do you think so low of me? Like, I'm going to the Olive Garden because I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm getting.
Delicious.
And it is, at that moment, it's what I want. I want my fucking breadstick warm out of the oven to dip in their Alfredo sauce that comes from a can.
Yep.
That is what I want. Right? So please keep your comments to yourself. I'm like, it's not real Italian food. It's like, I've been to Italy like 6 times. Like,
I know Italian food.
Yeah. Without being Italian, right? Like, okay, now that I've given that,
that whole spiel.
A segment was brought to you by the Cheesecake Factory.
Yes, by fast casual dining.
Hey everyone, this is DJ, and if you listen to the show, you know how much we love Jupiña. The pineapple soda is refreshing and sweet, and Jupiña goes great with everything from a medianoche to a hot dog to even a rum or vodka. Whether diet or regular, Jupiña has been part of our heritage for over 120 years. From watching our abuelos drink Jupiña at every get-together to introducing the next generation to its distinctive taste, Jupiña is practically part of the familia, como un Juprimo maybe. Así, next time that you need a cool, refreshing beverage, grab that distinctive orange can of Jupiña. After all, only Jupiña tiene puro sabor a piña.
All right. So let's give our last Jupiñas.
Yes, I actually want to go first today.
All right,
so
fantastic.
I actually want to give my Jupiña today too, and I urge everybody who are listeners out there to follow on Instagram a account called Bullets for the number 4 life. So this is an account that was actually set up by somebody who I know. I've worked with her. She is a friend, and what she does is that she repurposes, bullets. She does like bracelets and things like that with bullets to get bullets out of the street.
Oh, wow.
So like what she does is that people literally bring bullets from home or clearly they're not using to just get them out of the street. So she created a non-profit for this. And obviously she really brings attention to gun violence, the victims of gun violence, but she does sell these, bracelets in support of those causes. So I just wanted to bring attention to her, because her name is Susan, and Susan is one of these people that she's one of these like everyday ordinary heroes, people that, have ordinary lives, but do extraordinary things because she really has taken it upon herself to be very involved in the community and, really do this work that is so important and bring awareness to gun violence, which affects us all. Right. And I just love what she's doing. And she's been doing it for several years now. And I wanted to bring a little spotlight to her. So I urge people to follow Bullets for Life. It's bullets number 4 life on Instagram and find out more of what she's doing and what the organization is doing. And she gets my Las Jupiña this week.
That's awesome. That's very well deserved. So for my last Jupiña, I'm sure our listeners know about my love of drag queens, But what some or most listeners probably don't know is also my love of MMA, of mixed martial arts. I will watch any MMA fight. It's on TV. I can't get enough. I think it's great. So, of course, that is why my last Hupiña is going to the MMA coach, Johnny Haught, or Haught. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly. He is a coach of a West Virginia mixed martial arts school, and he is offering the services of him and his his fellow students or his trainees to provide security to a restaurant in West Virginia that was set to host a drag brunch and had to close it down because of protests and, just threats of violence. And so this gentleman has said, and I'm looking for his quote, he said, "I volunteer myself and my fighters to stand guard so that people can do exactly what they want to do," he said on Facebook. "The drag show is no more offensive than a Broadway show or a stand-up comedy show. In essence, it's a mix of both. At the end of the day, it is entertainment, not part of some hidden agenda like some would have you believe." So I can't agree with him anymore. I mean, it is definitely a combination of a stand-up show and a Broadway show if you've been to a drag show. But you know what? Thank you, Mr. Haught.
And brunch.
And brunch. Who doesn't love brunch? Thank you, Mr. Haught, for just stepping up to do it. Whether, they take you up on it or not, I think it's very important for someone like yourself, again, MMA, masculinity, the epitome of, of a man, or, standing up to help their fellow people, their fellow citizens, and showing that it's like, dude, just get the fuck off their backs. Like, leave these drag queens alone, and we need more people like you. So thank you so much for, just putting yourself out there, and making yourself a target.
A Hupiña for him.
Hupiña for you and for all your trainees, for the entire school, for the entire MMA school. Hupiñas.
Speaking of drag queens, have you seen that skit by a drag queen called Meatball?
Meatball. Yeah. Spicy
George
Meatball.
Santos?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not.
It's wonderful.
So I'm not really into drag queens. I appreciate the art form, but it's really not my thing. But this was
fucking great.
Amazing. I like, people, if you want to laugh, go to YouTube and find it.
Yeah, Spiciest Meatball is the Instagram.
And just put, I guess, Spiciest Meatball, George Santos.
Yeah.
So she comes on stage dressed as George Santos doing, I don't even know what song.
It's from The Greatest Showman. This Is Me.
Okay. Well, okay, so there we go. This is me. And she's dressed with like the blazer with the sweater and the tie under.
The suit, yeah.
And all this, little by little, she starts undressing. And then she ends up by the end of the performance looking like that now infamous picture of George Santos in drag.
Yes.
And she even pulls out a wig and puts on the wig on stage to look exactly like George Santos in drag. So it's sort of a metamorphosis.
Yes.
A backwards metamorphosis, if you will. It's hilarious.
It's great.
It is hilarious. Like,
it's great. If anybody says drag is not an art form, has not seen that.
Yeah, no, but it's like so clever.
That's
which usually our drag shows are, but this was so like perfectly done.
It was perfect.
Like, yeah, it was great.
It was perfect. But again, this is why we need drag queens.
Anyway. Well, everybody, with that, we hope you listened, laughed, and learned. And as always, remember to grab your pastelito, your croqueta, and your Hupiña. And thank you so much for joining us, everybody. And by the way, it's 305 Day this week.
That's right.
This weekend. So if you are in Miami, join us at 305 Day.
Yes, it's in Wynwood.
In Wynwood this year. It's our day. It's Miami Day. It's 305 Day. And that's always a lot of fun.
Yep. Oh, we're also doing a pop-up on March 4th at J. Wakefield.
Yes.
During the afternoon starting at 12.
So it's happening in Wynwood this week.
Yeah. Wow.
This weekend.
It really is.
So see you there. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a great weekend.
All right, cuídense, mi gente. Bye. Pero Let Me Tell You is co-hosted by Darian Borges and Ismaeliano, produced by Ismaeliano, and our theme, Pero Let Me Tell You Freestyle, is composed by Michael Angelo Lamleplex, the official gay guy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes.